My next guest says, also voiced concerns about intellectual bullying. I'm going to bring a Walser Wealth Management president, Rebecca Walser. This meritocracy is big. You know, there's a massive pushback on it. I saw something over the weekend, meritocracy.com. They've got quotes by some of the biggest CEOs out there saying, we want to do the right thing with our country. We want to lift everyone, but we're not just going to simply put people in positions because of their gender or their race and things like that.
Right, DEI.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, yeah, Charles, I mean, I can, obviously we need to see, like, for example, look at the GDP. You know, it was revised Q1 down from 1.6 to 1.3. And if you look at the year-over-year CPI that we just got, it's 3.3% core. So what is the true growth that we have? Nothing, right? If we're inflating at 3.3%, right, and we're only growing at 1.3%, we actually have negative real growth. Right. And that is unsustainable. And it is brought about because we aren't in that kind of system where actual things that are actually making profits are being driven to be the leaders. It's because the government has gotten too invasive, and it's more of a socialistic country, period.
Speaking to that point, Neil Ferguson wrote a great piece. I think it was in the paper, his first article for that organization. And it was titled, We're All Soviets Now. Yeah. A government with permanent deficits, a bloated military, bogus ideology pushed by elites, poor health among ordinary people, and sentient leaders. What are your thoughts on that? That's kind of scary, isn't it? We used to make fun of the old Soviet Union, and that was our evidence that it was a broken system or failed system. Right.
Well, to his point, you know, when you talk about just rewarding what the government is looking at, you're going to have an elitist class of lobbyists and all of the groups that are in the 1%, you know, pulling the market in their direction, and the rest of the 99 are getting left behind. And healthcare is coming down. Healthcare is a business, and it's basically been taken over by private equity. You know this. Right. So everything that it could go wrong in a controlled society is where we see America heading. It's just absolutely problematic.
And an interesting phenomenon now, our interest on our debt is bigger than the defense budget. Neil Ferguson also points out, they call it Ferguson's Law, that throughout history, anytime that happens, that's all she wrote. Habsburgs in Spain, the ancient France, the Ottoman Empire, and of course, more recently, the British Empire.
I would remind people of the Roman Empire imploding upon itself, right? The military expansion everywhere through debt made debt bigger than military, and that is exactly where we are. CBO said last year, Charles, that we would not see the interest exceed defense spending until 2028. It's happening now in 2024. Right. It's happening this year. So there is a massive problem. We have to get our spending under control. Last year, we spent $6.2 trillion, and we collected $4.3 trillion, $4.5 trillion. So that is $2 trillion a year being added to a debt. And if you look at the BRICS and you look at the de-dollarization, you look at the M-Bridge, which is what I'm really concerned about, then you're going to see that there's going to be, on the end of the petrodollar, there's going to be more and more economic activity outside of the dollar, which then leaves America behind.
Before I let you go, I think the CBO or someone saying, hey, 50 trillion in debt by 2034. If I put you out in Times Square on a soapbox and you were yelling as if you had a cardboard sign, said 50 trillion by 2034, would anybody stop? Outside of your safari outfit, would anybody stop?
I got to take the lions out there. This is not mathematically possible. The dollar will collapse before we ever get to 50 trillion, because 50 trillion assumes, Charles, that people have bought 50 trillion of our dollars. That ends when we are this financially bankrupt. Right. Period. That's never going to happen, I promise you.
In the meantime, you know, everything goes on, so you're still hard assets for the most part?
There is disruption coming. It is afoot. I mean, they've done everything they can to use the liquidity that they built up through the coronavirus stimulus to really obfuscate what globally is happening macroeconomically. Right.
Great stuff. Rebecca, thank you very much. Keep pushing. Listen,
Tame those lions.
People are listening.
Thank you.
Now we can just get the elites to listen. Yeah. Speaking of the elites, we got Scott Martin coming on. He's talking about a market pullback, but when that happens, be ready to pounce. He'll tell you what to buy right after this. Everybody's talking.